Hello, lovely people. Um, I wasn't sure whether to keep making these videos. I've been reading lately about the algorithm on YouTube and how kind of geared it is now towards kind of celebrity channels and, kind of high production values, and people won't watch videos from small, content producers anymore. So just maybe let me know if you want to see me kind of continue to build this small corner of YouTube where we talk about liver congestion and liver and gallbladder flushes and candida and all those very niche things. I would like to continue to do these videos and to build this channel. Also maybe produce more kind of exclusive membership content as well for people who would like to kind of use some of my methods but don't necessarily want to jump into one-to-one coaching. So just maybe let me know in the comments if this is something that you would be interested in. So today I want to talk about something a little bit different. So obviously the internet and YouTube specifically has gone crazy recently for the sugar diet. And Cole Robinson, formerly of the snake diet, has been pushing the sugar diet and sugar fasting, although I believe he's now moved on to kind of low fat 90s style eating. This piqued my interest. I've always been a sucker for, investigating kind of very niche diets. Usually there's some kind of kernel of interesting kind of research or discovery in there that piques my interest. And, I've come from, historically very a low carb style of eating. And I haven't really dabbled with, kind of high carb, low fat diet for a very long time. I kind of knew instinctively that I did not want to jump on board the full protocol. It doesn't really make sense to me from a nutritional standpoint. You can't possibly expect not to run into long-term kind of vitamin and mineral deficiencies, fatty acids deficiencies, fat-soluble vitamin deficiencies, potential tooth decay, bone demineralization, all those issues if you're just eating a high sugar diet, not to mention high refined sugar. So I did not want to jump on board fully with that particular trend. Nevertheless, it did intrigue me. Back when I was coming off my low carb days, back in the kind of early 2010s, I did move quite dramatically from a very low carb, high fat diet, like a GAPS type diet, for my gut issues and my candida issues. This diet I thought was going to be kind of, my savior, and it ended up, making me very cold, miserable. My thyroid was affected. I lost my period for a good 6 months. It was not a good way of eating. It didn't do anything for the candida. It just basically, suppressed my immune system even more. And then I found the work of Matt Stone. I've talked about him before. You can find his work still in an archive on 180degreehealth.com. He's one of my favorite kind of nutrition spokespeople. He recently started up his YouTube channel again, which I think you can find under his name, Matt Stone. I'd really recommend his stuff. So I found his material. I started doing his Eat for Heat protocol, which was basically eating a lot of starch, salt, high reward, palatable foods in order to kickstart a very sluggish, slow metabolism. And not only did my period come back very quickly, but I also fell pregnant almost immediately. I often blame Matt for for me having had a sudden pregnancy that I was not expecting. So if you're listening, thanks for that, Matt. But yeah, in all seriousness, I've never gone back to the low carb style of eating. And then of course, when I discovered liver flushes, I was able to really broaden my diet doing that. But this latest kind of episode of the sugar diet really kind of fascinated me. And there's many reasons why, when we have a sluggish liver, a sluggish metabolism, and cholestasis, it could be important to try and improve the way that our metabolism deals with glucose. Because essentially, if you deprive the body of glucose for too long, there's some research to show that you do become insulin resistant over time, and your blood glucose, your ability to tolerate glucose and your blood glucose management gets much worse. So, if you have got stones and sludge, then that is going to, kind of interrupt the smooth flow of and storage of glucose. And that's one of the things that I definitely found on a low carb diet, was that every time I ate anything with sugar in it, I would get these kind of fungal blooms happening, because my body was just the glucose management was really poor, and the glucose was hanging around in my system because my body wasn't used to it anymore. It wasn't being cleared efficiently by insulin, and therefore it was staying around in the bloodstream a lot longer and causing these fungal blooms. So, being able to tolerate glucose is really like exercising a type of muscle, and the less your body uses glucose, the more it's going to cause problems for you, and the more insulin resistant you're going to become. The other thing to say is that when your liver and gut are not working properly, it is your body switches to a kind of stress metabolism, and that's running on free fatty acids. And you do get, your glucose, because it's at such a low level, is being conserved for, organs like the brain and the heart, and the rest of the body is running on free fatty acids. But that can cause problems because it's not a very efficient type of metabolic fuel, and you do end up getting fat in the tissues, where it can cause problems. And it also tends to slow down the mitochondria, because your mitochondria, particularly in your muscles, for example, tends to prefer glucose. And the other thing is that if you don't get enough glucose in your diet, it can lead to, or it can exacerbate the symptoms of functional hypothyroidism, because you do need glucose to convert thyroid hormone T4 into active thyroid hormone T3. And so, T3 requires glucose in order to be converted, and this conversion happens in your liver, and it also happens in peripheral tissues and muscles to a certain extent. And so, T3 is crucial for your energy metabolism, for your mitochondria to work properly, for cellular energy to work properly. And so, if you are in a glucose depleted or glucose restricted state, then the glucose is going to be reserved for those vital organs to carry on functioning, like the brain and the heart, and is not going to go to the rest of the body. So eventually you get the symptoms of functional hypothyroidism in a low carb, if you've been pursuing low carb for a long period of time. And so you end up getting all the symptoms of hypothyroidism, even if you don't actually, even if you're not diagnosed as hypothyroid. So, that can include cold hands and feet, thinning hair, brittle nails, loss of sex drive, slow digestion, and, all those other kind of unpleasant symptoms of a low metabolism. So, I had all those symptoms in the past, and I decided, with this kind of, reading about the sugar diet, that I was going to just up the amount of sugar that I was eating in my diet, because I've mainly been eating a sort of whole foods diet with animal protein, and that's been working fine. I eat a lot of beans, as I think some of you already know, because I sort of follow the Karen Hurd diet, although not entirely. And so I just started to include more fruit in my daily diet. And I was quite careful about how I introduced this. I decided I was going to do it in a very specific way. And I wasn't going to combine fruit with protein or fat, which is often the advice in the sort of nutrition circles, especially for women. It's like, well, you don't want your blood sugar to go, off the charts. So you want a blunted glucose and insulin spike. But actually, if you look at the science about how blood sugar spikes and insulin spikes work, you actually want it to go up and then come down quite quickly. You don't want it to stay elevated. And if you pair glucose with fat or protein, it's going to stay around in the bloodstream longer. And it may even cause these fungal overgrowths to happen because, you've got these microbes in the GI tract. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just eat these fruit meals away from other meals. So I've just been 2 or 3 times a day, maybe 3 or 4 times a day, I'm having a fruit meal. And this might include fresh fruit. Because it's summer here, in the Northern Hemisphere, I've really been enjoying, all the amazing stone fruits, soft fruits, and berries that I can get. So I've been eating things like plums, nectarines, peaches, kiwis, and then having that with banana. Sometimes I will have some tinned fruit. Tinned fruit is a bit of an overlooked kind of hero, really. I think, it does have some nutrition. It's not as nutritious as fresh, but it can be more digestible for people with a compromised digestive system. And then the other thing I've been doing is to pair the fruit with fiber. So, I might put some ground flaxseed on the fruit. I might put some psyllium powder on the fruit and mix it in. And the psyllium and the fiber is a way of, slightly kind of offsetting the sudden kind of rush of glucose into the tissues, but it's also just going to help mop up that toxic bile in the digestive tract. So again, you're kind of using the principles of the soluble fiber a la Karen Hurd, but you're pairing it with fruit. And this has been working really well for me. It helps the fruit to feel more satiating. I don't feel crashy after eating the fruit. And so what have I noticed? Well, one of the things I've noticed with this approach is that my temperature has really just started to elevate consistently high across the day. I'm waking up with a temperature of around 37.1 degrees Celsius, which is a real win for me after many years of being an exceptionally cold, stagnant person. And yeah, I'm finding my temperature is staying up around 37.4, 37.5 pretty much all day, which is absolutely amazing. Like, can't tell you like what a win this is. Your basal body temperature is such a great indication of overall health. So I'm really, really pleased about that. And I'm really loving the way that the fruit is making me feel. I'm not getting any kind of yeast symptoms from it. It's just making me feel really good. It's helping my mood. It's actually making me want to move my body more. So that's a good sign as well of kind of high metabolic energy. Okay, so this video is getting quite long. I'm going to leave it here. If you have any questions that you want to ask me about my new eating regime, pop them down below. Give me a like, give me a follow if you don't already follow me. I am planning to make more videos for YouTube, and have a great day.